You're listening to Leading Up with Udemy. This podcast is your guide to developing your skills as an emerging or seasoned leader. I'm Alan Todd, your host and the Vice President of Leadership Development at Udemy. Together, we can work, lead, and live differently to create a better world. You're listening to Leading Up with Udemy. This podcast is your guide to developing your skills as an emerging or seasoned leader. I'm Alan Todd, your host and the founder of Udemy's Leadership Academy. Together, we can work, lead, and live differently to create a better world. This week, I'm speaking with Sunny Bonnell, the co-founder and CEO of Motto, a rebel branding agency that has gained national recognition for helping visionary leaders at companies like Hershey's, Google, Microsoft, the NFL. Sunny was named to the Thinkers 50 radar list of the brightest minds in the world. She's the author of a bestseller called Rare Breed, a guide to success for the defiant, dangerous, and different. It's a book that shuns business as usual and shows you how to carve a path to unconventional success. The aha moment with Sunny is all about being yourself and having self-belief. I think she has an incredible message for people to not conform and learn to be successful by being yourself. I think if listeners try to take away some ideas that help them be more authentically themselves, they're going to do much better at work. And as leaders, you're going to be a more effective leader. Sunny, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start with you being a street musician to a college dropout to the founder and CEO of Motto, a major branding agency. How about just walk us through that journey?
Sure. From dropping out of college, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I was on track to be a veterinarian and was moonlighting as a designer on the side and just really fell in love with it and decided to drop out of college and put all my money on a branding career. Had never ran a branding company, had never ran a business before, but had a bit of an audacious vision. And so my co-founder and I dropped out of college together, $250, started Motto in 2005. And 19 years later, we're now working with some of the biggest brands in the world on big ideas, innovation, helping companies really mobilize their culture and get people really excited about the future and where they're going and how to get there. And it's very rewarding work. So it's been a really amazing journey, but one that where it's lots of learnings and trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah. So I think about Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. They made similar moves. They dropped out of college, and you two were defiant and young. So what made you make such a bold move?
I think it comes down to vision and having a purpose. We really believed that we looked out at the landscape, and at the time, advertising agencies, what were really prominent in the industry. Branding as a term, as a phrase, was actually relatively new. There was not a lot of branding agencies. There were graphic designers, there were advertising agencies, marketing agencies, et cetera, but not a tremendous amount of branding companies at that time. And we saw an opportunity to really work with founders and CEOs on what is that rally cry? What is the purpose, cause, or belief that you have? Why did you start that business? Why do you want to create that business and make your impact and mark on the world? And how could we have some part in really helping you shape that story, tell that story, and galvanize people around it to get people excited about it? And so I think that we just saw an opportunity. We were very young, though, and it took a lot of guts to kind of be young women in this industry where, only 0.1% of all creative agencies still are ran by women. So the fact that we were in 2005 doing this and now, 19 years later, still doing it, I think is a testament to that the world is evolving and we're a big voice in it. It's exciting when we get letters from young women CEOs who are starting a company, getting into the creative industry. I'd like to say that we had some small part in just being a trailblazer for how to build something of significance and do it as two women who had the guts and the vision to bring something like that into the market and do it in a way that is very much our own rule book.
Yeah, so you had to create your own rule book. There wasn't anyone for you to copy with the type of agency that you were building. Did you have a rocky start?
Oh, well, we didn't have any funding, so we were bootstrapped. And I think that had its own fair share of challenges because we didn't have some founder, somebody who with a lot of experience to really look up to. So we looked outside of our industry to mentors, my father and Ashley's family and everybody that we really tried to learn from. And I think that what it allowed us to do was learn how to build something that was original and that was not a blueprint of anyone else. And when you do that, it has its own pros and cons. You kind of learn your own methodology, you figure out what your zone of genius is, and yet at the same time, you have to learn by doing. So it took some time to really break through, but we had some really pivotal moments that I think were the catalyst to allowing us to do some really exciting things and to attract the kind of clients that would eventually call on us to come in and work with them on some of the greatest business challenges of our time, some innovations, some new work and ideas that were entering the market. And we had the benefit of being able to have a front row seat to that and also have a hand in shaping it. So that in and of itself, I think was really exciting. But of course, when you start out really young, you earn everything that you do. And you do that through hard work. But I wouldn't trade it. I think that path was one where we've learned so much and we've been able to apply that learning in some really exciting and innovative ways. And it's also given us kind of a point of view, which when you have to fight for your own point of view, it makes that point of view that much stronger.
How did shaping your point of view and writing your own playbook, how did any or all of that lead to one of these pivotal moments that became a catalyst for transforming the business?
Yeah. So there was a few of those. We've won lots of awards and done some pretty cool stuff, but there was a competition that we entered in pretty early on it was a high profile women's business competition. And the competition was designed to take promising micro businesses, small businesses, and grow them into $1 million companies. By some small miracle, out of thousands of applications, we get in and we make it to the top 15. And so we're invited to pitch the business in front of some really powerful women and judges who had been and achieved incredible things in their career. And we're, again, in our mid-20s or something, not very seasoned, very raw. And we're also the youngest women in the competition. So everybody else is like in their 40s and 50s, and we're like 23, 24. So the day before the live event, there was a practice pitch. And all the contestants are there, all the judges there, there's press, there's media, and you get up and practice your pitch in front of the audience. In this competition, by the way, was I would call kind of a bit of a game changer because, we didn't have a lot of money and they were going to give you like a line of credit from American Express. You got mentorship, coaching, a Cisco IT package, lots of press and media. There was a lot on the line if you were to win it. And so it mattered because we didn't have any of those things. And so at the practice round, we swagger up to the podium and try to pitch motto and completely blank. Just forget it. You don't know the name of the company, what we do, why we're different. We can't explain any of it. And one of the judges stands up and says, "You don't know your business and you're not ready for this competition." And it was one of those moments where it's pretty defining, because you're in front of everybody, you're doubted. They're like, you don't have what it takes. And so we kind of shuck off stage and decide that we're going to leave. We're going to head out of there.
Pack it in.
Pack it up. We're not ready. We're too young. We're too naive. We're too defiant, whatever. And that night, I decide to rewrite the pitch on a napkin because I'm just at that. Now I'm getting mad. I was like, you're not going to doubt us. And so I was getting a little mad about it. And so I wrote in the bar, we hung out on the bar and I rewrote the pitch on a napkin. And I convinced my co-founder to go up there the next day and pitch us again in front of the actual audience. They thought we'd left. And so we end up coming in, we get in line right as they're bringing all the contestants out on stage. Long story short, we end up winning it and getting a standing ovation. And I think that those are the entrepreneurial moments that really make up who you are. They define you. What you do in those moments are what strengthens who you are and who you're going to be. And it also opened the door to many exciting awards. And it also gave us the confidence, I think, to try again, to keep trying, to have a good comeback. And it was a powerful moment. And we talk a lot about it for other entrepreneurs who are doubting themselves. Hey, you can come back from that and you can absolutely slay it and win it.
Yeah. Is the lesson here perseverance?
I think it's about self-belief.
Yeah.
You have to have the courage of your own convictions. If you don't believe in you, no one else will. I have this saying that be thankful for small minds, because that's how the rose grew from the concrete. You have to have people who doubt you. But what you do with that no is very telling. I've heard no so many times. And I think that as an entrepreneur, you hear no so much that eventually you almost become indifferent to it. Once you've had enough of them and you've learned enough how to overcome them, then you realize that it actually just means no, not now. And once you understand that and you turn that phrase around, you can really do some incredible things, because someone's perception of you is just that. It's just their perception, and you can change the dynamic. You can change the narrative at any point, but the person that changes it is you. And so you have to take back the mantle of who you are.
I love your comment, no, not now. I think that's a great way to take a no as a not now. Beautiful.
Not now.
So what motivated you to write the book, Rare Breed?
It's a funny little story. So a few years into business, we had some self-doubt, I think all entrepreneurs do. And we couldn't figure out why we were opinionated.
Yeah.
And as young women in a room, sometimes with people 2-3 times your age, who are thinking in the back of their mind, like, what do you know? And we were just having a moment of self-doubt. And my dad said, well, we were thinking about quitting. And he's like, look, you two are a rare breed. He's like, not everybody's going to love you. He's like, in fact, some people might not like you at all. He said, but you have to succeed because of who you are, not despite who you are. And that little phrase stuck with us for years. And in 2019, we decided to write the book, Rare Breed, A Guide to Success for the Defiant, Dangerous, and Different. And that book was really built around, how do you take the parts of yourself that other people criticize and turn them into your selling points? How do you take the 7 so-called vices that every entrepreneur typically has, and how do you flip those around to be the thing that actually makes you succeed? And it took us a long time because we didn't have the knowledge at the time. We just knew that the phrase was interesting. Rare breed means unordinary among the kind, meaning that you're different. You move through the world different. And we took those lessons and we broke the book down into 7 virtues. We call them virtues. And in that, rebellious, audacious, obsessed, weird, hypnotic, emotional, traits like that, these are all traits that have a dark side. These types of traits can be the thing that helps you lead to incredible breakthroughs, but they're also things that are a bit dark and perilous. And how can you harness the power of them? And so what we've learned over time is that you can not only know that you have this trait, but there's usually a dominant trait within each person. And once you actually know what that trait is, you begin to learn how to utilize that trait for your work, your life, your career, everything that you're doing.
Yeah. You use a lot of metaphors and similes in the book, which I love. One of the things that you tell us in Rare Breed, you call it the prime virtue, is about being a rebel, being more rebellious. And I thought companies didn't want rebels. They want people who fit in and behave a certain way and follow the rules that are written on the wall. So why should we be more rebellious?
Well, rebellious it's in the DNA of some really great companies. How do you bring in brilliant minds who are unordinary among the kind, who are going to rock the ship, and yet you have the people who steady the ship, and you kind of need both. And what I think a lot of organizations get wrong is that they think, oh, if I hire this disruptor, they're going to come in and create this disruptive culture. That's culture carnage. That's not the kind of rare breed we're even talking about. What you're looking for is someone who wants to push the very fabric of who you are. You have to create an environment where that person can thrive. So it's actually not the person that's failing. It's the culture. The company's failing them because once they get them in, they don't know what to do with them. Because when you have rebellious people who've been on the payroll 2 weeks and they're already questioning everything you do, you're like, was this such a good idea?
Yeah.
Why did I do this? But it's because they fly at a different altitude. And if you learn how to harness the potential of who they are, they can take your organization to incredible heights. But you have to be wired to be able to accept that thinking. And you have to be able to be wired to act on that thinking. And that's where we see a little bit of a disconnection when we work in teams and cultures, is that either they're inherently innovative and everything they do is built around that core tenet, or they're not innovative. They want to be innovative and they're looking to figure out how, but they're not wired in such a way that they know how to accept that kind of disruption. So, companies that do it really well, like, disrupt themselves all the time. They're in the business of disruption. They're looking for opportunities to change the conversation. That's what makes them innovative, and that's what keeps them relevant.
The whole concept of your book in terms of bringing your whole self to work and being different and defiant, I think you're on the front end of a movement that, when you look at the history of management and leadership, it really is silent on these types of topics. We had Rory Sutherland as a guest on the show, who wrote a book called Alchemy, and he writes in a different way as well, like you do, about just ultimately magic. He was like, this is where the magic happens, and it's not logical.
Yes.
It's different than logical, and you can't, if you're going to use logic to solve a problem, he's like, well, that's what everyone else is doing. So you're not really using imagination. So if you use imagination, you have 10 times more chances at something great than those who are solving problems with logic.
Yes. And you have to create an environment full of sandboxes, right?
Yeah.
Where ideas can clash, combine, and coalesce. And it's the visionaries within a company that really anchor that long-term vision by making innovation not just an action, but a core value. One of the core values at Motto that we have, that we talk a lot about, we sign off every meeting that we have with "Do Big Things." That's our idea worth rallying around within the company. If you went to anyone on my team and you asked, what do we believe in at Motto? Everybody would say, we do big things.
That's awesome.
And it's just in the fabric of who we are. You can't work here if you don't want to do big things.
Right.
If you demand a great deal of yourself and of others, probably not going to succeed here. But it's kind of on the door. And if you want to walk through that door, we'd love to have you. But if you're not, that's okay too. And that's good to know, because it's just as important for that individual to feel like they're in the right innovation culture for them. And they may not even be looking for that. Some people don't want to be pushed. Some people don't want to be innovative, and that's completely okay. Like, you need folks like that who run and keep the engines going. And we have people on our team who are, they don't come in every day and just say, I'm ready to disrupt and tear up the rule book. And that's completely fine. Like, we love that about them. But we also love the folks on the team who do. And the difference is amazing, because we kind of can have that uncomfortable harmony sometimes where you're like, yeah, I don't know if I like that idea, or, hey, what about this? And I think that really, when you normalize that, you normalize feedback, you normalize coaching, you normalize how everybody understands the mission and the vision and the purpose and where you're going, and to actually practice radical candor, you just have a better culture. I'd stand our culture up to any culture. And it's because we've really worked hard to sort of understand like who we are at our very essence. And I don't think enough teams do that hard work, And so you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your business, and you owe it to the people that are going to come join you. Why should they help you put that flag on that mountain? If you can answer that, you're pretty far into good territory if you can answer that question.
So let's talk about putting that flag on that mountain, because I think a lot of companies, and you and I talked about this before, they don't have visionary leadership. And so when you come up with a motto, do big things, 3 simple words, you turn it into a mantra, you drill it into everybody. We can talk to anybody at your agency and no one will not know that. So let's just talk about visionary leadership. You practice it, you teach it. Tell us, what is it and why is it important right now?
Well, the statistics are really interesting about this. So there was a study done where 1 in every 10,000 people or companies are ran by a visionary, which means we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
A lot of companies don't know. I think Harvard Business Review did a study on this. Many companies, employees don't know the vision of the company. They don't know the purpose of the company. They're just kind of in and out, clocking in and out. And vision is so important because it is a picture of the world that you hope to create for those that you wish to serve. It is a future state. Where are we going? Why should anybody care? Why should you join me in building it? And a lot of teams that we work with don't always understand the true definition of what vision is. They think it means I need to make a lot of money, or I need to sell X amount of product by this date or this date, right? And so, but vision is actually not self. It is about others. And when you can paint that future of where you want not only your business to go, but the problem that you are trying to solve for those that you hope to serve, you find that people are a little bit more interested in helping you build that future state, particularly if you can articulate it, and even more so if you can get people fired up about their contribution to carrying that flag. If you just sort of point at a flag and say, we're going there.
Yeah.
And you're just going to help me build my dream and make me a lot of money, that's not very inspiring at all. So it can't be about self. It has to be about a future state. And you have to, without any shadow of a doubt, be able to articulate it clearly. We worked with an organization not too long ago who had 6 vision statements. And they were like, we can't.
And they didn't do that on purpose, right?
No,
Just to be clear, because this happens everywhere. We see it everywhere. And it's not on purpose.
No, not at all. And we chuckle because they chuckle, because they're like, we know. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because it's almost like they have a sense of humor about it too, which is great, which is, hey, we know that we're chasing a lot of rabbits here. And I said, yeah. I said, well, it's fixable, right? Vision statements are clear, they're concise, they are not about you. And once you figure that out, you can then start to mobilize people around that vision, and you can also hire the right people to help you build that culture and build that brand. And it's a powerful thing because these companies and organizations, they're doing incredible things. Most of them are, what they've achieved is phenomenal. So they're doing so many things right. But when you really dig in, you begin to see, but we're kind of chasing too many objectives and we don't actually know, I was like, what's the hero of this? What is the hero of where you're going? Let's try to laser into that and forget about all the other things that you've put on the table and other people are operationalizing right now. Let's really try to figure out what is the signature idea that you can become famous for, both internally and externally. So now Motto's work is really about working with leadership teams, executive teams to help them find that single signature idea that sits at the heart of the business and makes it famous. And we really encourage our clients to go all in on that one signature idea, because when you have it, it's so simple. No matter where you are within your ship of a company, everyone at every level knows why they're there, what they're fighting for or fighting against, and they know exactly why they're climbing the mountain with you, and they know exactly what's on the flag that they're carrying. That's why it is so important to do that and get that right. We often complicate things in business, and we forget that sometimes simplicity is how we scale. Simplicity is how we actually make a difference, because the more convoluted it becomes, the more difficult it becomes to explain to somebody what that signature idea is, or your vision is, the more challenging it is for people to really, really buy into it, believe in it, help support it, and make it the reality that you hope that it will be.
I want to go back with visionary leadership. Is this something that maybe a team leader could do, a frontline leader, somebody that's promoted to management, has 10 people working for them? How can they apply visionary leadership thinking to advance the team within the broader framework of the organization?
We actually launched a program called Vision Camp where we do this very thing, where we work with teams and we come in and we help them crystallize their vision. And we have something called a vision script. And that vision script is based on 7 Ps or 7 principles. And what you're trying to do is help a visionary team or a visionary leader, or somebody who has some tendencies towards sort of understanding where they're trying to go. And what you're trying to do is give them some type of framework that they can begin to pull down. What are the signature statements or concepts that they want to start noodling around and trying to get onto paper? Because that's then going to be the thing that they reinforce at every meeting, every memo, every all hands, every culture initiative, hiring, even into job postings, down to the job postings. It's important to lead with vision. And when you do that, you find that people that you end up hiring up underneath the company also begin to adopt some of those same behaviors. And they are then able to mobilize their teams down below where they're working within their groups. And it's just kind of setting the tone at the top. And then also encouraging people that are young leaders coming into the company, new employees or employees that have been there for a long time. How do you get them to begin to articulate like whatever their division is or whatever their initiative is? What is the vision future state that you hope to achieve? And for leaders, it's just getting everybody on the same page. When you can do that, you can be a lot more effective than if you have a bunch of different sort of war cries going on and saying, we're going over here, we have this initiative. Like that really sort of sends everybody off in different directions. And like a bunch of arrows going in all these different places, you kind of want all the arrows pointing to one direction.
Sunny, I loved your book and I could listen to you all day, but we're coming to the end. And I would love to ask you one question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, what are you curious about and learning now?
AI.
Say more.
Yeah. So I've had this kind of interesting theory of, can you AI your vision? And I'm a firm believer in just moving towards the tool, not away from it, and really learning as much as we can. We're having our team deploy it and utilize it on a day-to-day basis and really figuring out what are the potentials, what are the possibilities, and, how does it relate to a culture that you build and the people that you hire and the way that you see the world? Can that be a tool that helps advance where you're going and support where you're going while also trying to figure out, can it replace a visionary CEO or leader? It's an interesting existential question that I think a lot of people are going to have to ask.
And you wrote a blog post. So our listeners, you can go to wearemotto.com, We Are Motto, or just Google Motto Agency. And I saw that you wrote a piece about AI and your thinking on it.
Yeah, it's been a very potent piece, which was really centered around AI visionary leadership and whether or not you can AI your vision. So far, it's not been, I tested it. I was like, no, not quite there.
But you found some things it can do that are helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's very supportive. I mean, there's a lot of things that it can help you do, be more efficient, be more effective with your time, help you summarize things very quickly. I mean, there's some really power to that engine. But it comes with a lot of other territories as well to explore that I think as leaders, we all need to be mindful of.
Yeah. Sunny Bonnell, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a real blast.
Thanks again to Sunny Bonnell for joining me today on the podcast. Follow Leading Up, a podcast from Udemy Business, wherever you find your podcast. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode to help you level up your leadership skills. Follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you like the show, leave a rating or a review. We'd love the feedback, and it really helps us to find new listeners. To learn more about Leading Up or how Udemy can help you develop leaders at scale and move business forward, Visit business.udemy.com. The Leading Up podcast is produced in partnership with Pod People. Our original theme is by Soundboard.